Buckle up, everyone, because we're about to take a deep dive into all the action and drama from La Liga Matchday 30. It was a weekend full of twists and turns, some expected, some not so much.
That's right. We've got a full report breaking down all 10 matches, and we're here to dissect those key moments and insights for you. We'll go beyond just the scores and really try to understand what happened and why it matters in the grand scheme of the league.
So let's start off with the big clash at the Camp Nou, Barcelona hosting Real Betis, and the final score, a 1-1 draw. Now, a draw for Barcelona might seem like a decent result, but digging into the report, it sounds like it was a pretty frustrating day for them.
Yeah, it really does. The report highlights how Betis really stifled Barcelona's attack with a super organized and disciplined defense. They basically shut down those intricate passing lanes that Barcelona are so good at using to create chances.
They weren't just defending deep, they were defending smart. And it paid off, too, when they managed to catch Barcelona on a counterattack to take the lead. You could just feel the tension in the stadium at that point.
Oh, absolutely. And even though Barcelona eventually found an equalizer and dominated possession for most of the match, they just couldn't break down that stubborn Betis defense again.
So thinking about the title race, how crucial is this dropped point for Barcelona at this stage?
Yeah.
I mean, every point matters, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially in a title race as close as this one, it definitely gives their rivals a glimmer of hope and maybe just a little psychological edge. It breaks that winning streak, even if it's just a small blip.
And speaking of rivals feeling a little more hopeful, let's talk about that shock result at the Bernabeu. Real Madrid losing at home to Valencia 1-2. That's got to sting, and this late in the season, a home defeat like that sends a big message.
It definitely does. The report says Real Madrid actually started strong. They controlled the early part of the game, even scored a goal. You'd think they'd be in the driver's seat from there.
But then Valencia hit back with what the report calls a stunning strike from outside the box. You know those goals that just completely change the mood of the game?
Oh yeah, a moment of brilliance like that can really lift one team and deflate the other. And it seems like Valencia really capitalized on that momentum shift. The report mentions they switched to a more compact formation in the second half, a 4-5-1 it looks like, and that really neutralized Real Madrid's creative midfielders.
It sounds like Valencia's manager really outsmarted his counterpart, and that tactical switch led to their winning goal. So how damaging is this loss for Real Madrid's title hopes? It feels like a real turning point.
It's a huge blow. Not only did they miss a chance to close the gap on Barcelona, they actually lost ground. The pressure's on now, and it just throws another layer of unpredictability into this title race.
All right, let's head over to the Metropolitano, where Atlético Madrid hosted Sevilla. 2-1 was the final score in favor of Atlético, and the report calls it a masterclass in tactical football. Color me intrigued.
It was a very interesting match from what I've read. Sevilla started with a lot of energy and created a few early chances, but Atletico stayed solid defensively, as they always do.
They're known for that, for sure. And then they did what they do best, hit Sevilla on a clinical counterattack to score the first goal. They're so good at exploiting those transitions.
Definitely. Sevilla did manage to equalize, though, showing they weren't going down without a fight. But then Diego Simeone, Atletico's manager, made some key tactical adjustments.
And what did those adjustments look like?
Well, the report specifically mentions the introduction of a certain player. We won't name names here, but let's call him Impact Man for now. His arrival seemed to give Atletico a new dimension in attack, really stretched Sevilla's defense, and that created the space for Atletico to score the winning goal late in the game.
So a win like that secured through smart tactics and late-game grit. How much does that boost Atletico's confidence and their push for a top-4 finish?
A win like that is a massive morale booster, no doubt. It really reinforces their identity as a tough team that can adapt to different situations, and it keeps them firmly in the race for those Champions League spots.
All right, let's shift gears to a game with a much wider margin. Rayo Vallecano got thumped at home by Espanyol, the final score 4-0. Talk about a statement win.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. The report calls it a commanding performance from Espanyol. They were dominant from the first whistle. They pressed high up the pitch, disrupting Rayo's buildup and forcing errors.
And that early goal really set the tone, didn't it? The report talks about Espanyol's relentless pressure, which Rayo Vallecano just couldn't cope with.
Yeah, it sounds like they were completely overwhelmed by Espanyol's speed and precision in attack. 4 goals, a clean sheet. You can't really ask for a better performance away from home.
So how big of a result is this for Espanyol as they try to climb away from the relegation zone?
A win like that is massive for their confidence and, of course, for their points tally. It sends a strong message that they've got the firepower to really dismantle teams, and it could be the spark they need to build some real momentum in the remaining games.
All right, moving on to a much tighter contest. Girona versus Alaves finished 1-0 for Alaves. This one is described as a tightly contested defensive battle.
Sounds like a real chess match, both teams prioritizing defense and limiting clear-cut scoring chances. The report mentions a few missed opportunities for Girona, those moments that can come back to haunt you in a close game.
And it looks like Alaves' defense was rock solid combined with a standout performance from their goalkeeper. They were a tough nut to crack, it seems.
Yeah, it seems like their goalkeeper was the hero for Alaves that day. They absorbed Girona's pressure and then managed to nick a goal from a set piece in the second half. Sometimes that's all it takes.
So the takeaway here is Alaves' ability to just grind out results. What does that tell us about their mentality and approach to these types of games?
It tells us they're a team that's incredibly well organized defensively, very disciplined, and they've got the mental toughness to stay in games even when they're not dominating possession. That ability to snatch points in close matches can be a real difference maker in a relegation battle or even when you're trying to exceed expectations.
Now let's look at Mallorca versus Celta Vigo, which finished 2-1 in favor of Celta Vigo. The report highlights this as an impressive comeback victory, and comebacks always make for good stories.
Oh, they do for sure. It sounds like Mallorca actually started well and grabbed an early lead with a well-constructed goal. Celta Vigo were on the back foot from the get-go.
But then they showed real character, didn't they? The report talks about their composure as they worked their way back into the game, and then they found an equalizer just before halftime. That must have been a huge momentum swing.
Absolutely. Going into halftime level after conceding early gives you a psychological boost. And then to cap it off with what the report calls a brilliant strike in the second half to secure the win just shows you the quality they have even under pressure.
So what does this comeback win tell us about the spirit and determination within this Celta Vigo team?
It shows they've got that mental resilience and that never give up attitude. Being able to turn a game around, especially away from home, is a sign of a team with a strong collective spirit.
Okay, let's move on to Las Palmas, hosting Real Sociedad, where the visitors came away with a comfortable 3-1 win. The report describes it as a commanding display from Real Sociedad, suggesting they were in control for most of the match.
Yeah, it sounds like they were really in the driver's seat. They showcased their quality and tactical superiority throughout the game. The report specifically mentions their opening goal as a real team effort, highlighting their fluid play.
Las Palmas did pull one back, though, showing they weren't completely outclassed, but it seems like Real Sociedad just had too much firepower.
They did. The report emphasizes their relentless attacking after conceding that goal, which led to 2 more goals for them. It paints a picture of a team that's really hungry for goals and has the clinical finishing to back it up.
The report also praises their clinical finishing and solid defense, a deadly combination. What does this away win tell us about Real Sociedad's ambitions for the rest of the season?
It really underlines their consistency and their clear aim to secure a European spot for next season. A dominant win like that, especially on the road, shows their strength across the board and sends a message to their rivals that they're serious contenders.
Right, next up we have Valladolid taking on Getafe, another game that ended with a 4-0 scoreline, but this time in favor of Getafe. The report highlights this as a dominant performance right from the start.
It seems like Getafe came out with all guns blazing. The report mentions their aggressive approach right from kickoff, which led to an early goal and put Valladolid on the back foot immediately.
And from there, Valladolid just couldn't handle the intensity and precision of Getafe's play. It was another goal fest, just like the Espanyol game.
Exactly. To score 4 goals away from home and keep a clean sheet really shows how dominant Getafe were. They were in control from start to finish.
So what's the significance of this emphatic win for Getafe as they try to climb up the table?
It's a huge confidence booster, and of course, 3 crucial points. It shows they've got the ability to overpower teams and will give them a lot of momentum going into these final weeks of the season.
Now we have Villarreal versus Athletic Club, which ended in a goalless draw. The report calls it a stalemate characterized by strong defensive performances from both sides.
Sounds like a very tactical game with both teams really focusing on keeping things tight at the back and minimizing any real scoring opportunities.
The report mentions that both Villarreal and Athletic Club did have some chances, but ultimately the defenses and the goalkeepers were just too good on the day.
It sounds like both teams had their moments where they might have snatched a goal, but neither could find that final touch or that bit of luck. Sometimes you just have to tip your hat to 2 well-organized defenses.
So the takeaway here is that it was a very even contest, but maybe both teams need to be a bit more creative in attack in future matches if they want to get those wins.
Yeah, I agree with that. While the point isn't terrible, especially for two teams with European aspirations, they'll probably both feel like they could have gotten all 3 points with a bit more cutting edge in the final third.
And finally, we have Leganes versus Osasuna, which ended in a 1-all draw. The report describes this one as a balanced encounter.
That suggests a pretty even matchup, both teams playing at a similar level and using similar approaches. The report notes that Leganes actually took the lead first, which gave them the initial advantage.
But Osasuna responded well and managed to equalize before halftime, which is so important in terms of keeping the momentum swinging back in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And the second half sounds like it was a real tactical battle with chances at both ends, but neither team could find that winning goal. A draw probably reflects the way the game played out overall.
So what does this draw mean for both teams in the context of their league positions?
Well, in a league table as tight as this, every point is valuable. For Leganes, who are probably looking to solidify their position, a point at home is a decent result. And for Osasuna, a point on the road isn't bad either. I think it's a fair reflection of the game.
All right, so we've made our way through all 10 matches. Now let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture, the La Liga table. At the top, Barcelona are still in control with 67 points. And the report really emphasizes their impressive form recently. 4 wins and a draw in their last 5 matches. 83 goals scored, the most in the league, and only 25 conceded. They look like the real deal.
They do, don't they? That combination of a free-scoring attack and a solid defense is a recipe for success, and their recent run of results sends a clear message to the rest of the league.
Right behind them are Real Madrid with 63 points. Despite that slip-up against Valencia, the report still points to their overall consistency, 3 wins in their last 5, and a balanced approach, as evidenced by their goal difference. They're still breathing down Barcelona's neck.
Absolutely. They've got the experience and the quality to bounce back from a defeat, and that balanced approach the report mentions suggests they can win games in different ways, which is a big advantage over a long season.
Then in third place, we have Atlético Madrid with 60 points. Their form has been a bit more up and down lately, but their defensive solidity is still there. Only 24 goals conceded. They're the best in the league in that regard. But they probably need to find a bit more consistency in attack if they want to seriously challenge the top 2.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Their defensive record is outstanding, but like you said, they need to score more goals consistently if they really want to close the gap on Barcelona and Real Madrid.
And then we get into the Champions League qualification spots with Athletic Club currently sitting in 4th place with 54 points. The report highlights their strong defense as well. They've only conceded 24 goals, which has been key to keeping them in the top 4 despite some inconsistent results.
That defensive base is definitely their strength. If they can find a bit more consistency going forward and start scoring more goals, they'll be in a good position to secure that Champions League spot.
Then we got Villarreal and Real Betis, both on 48 points, fighting for those Europa League and Conference League spots. The report mentions Villarreal's slightly better goal difference and Real Betis' impressive unbeaten run recently, which shows just how tight this race is.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting battle to watch. Both teams have shown they can put together good runs of form, so it'll be interesting to see who can maintain that momentum as we head towards the end of the season.
In the mid-table, we've got a group of teams, including Celta Vigo now, on 43 points. After that comeback win, Real Sociedad on 41, Rayo Vallecano, and Mallorca. The report suggests that the form amongst these teams has been a bit mixed, but it highlights that there's still a lot to play for, even in mid-table, whether it's improving their final league position or building some momentum for next season.
Absolutely. Finishing as high as possible in the table brings prestige and financial rewards, and these teams will be looking to end the season on a high and set themselves up for a good start next year.
And finally, we come to the relegation battle, which the report calls fiercely contested. We have Leganes on 28 points, Las Palmas just behind them on 26, and then Valladolid in a much tougher spot on 16 points, and having lost their last 5 matches. It's going to be a very difficult task for Valladolid to avoid the drop.
Yeah, they're in a real fight now. Losing 5 in a row at this stage of the season is a big worry. They need to start picking up points quickly if they want any chance of staying up. For Leganes and Las Palmas, every point is going to be crucial in this tense battle to avoid relegation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into La Liga Matchday 30, it's clear that we've got some incredible storylines developing across the table. A tight race at the top, the fight for European qualification, and a nail-biting relegation battle. There's so much drama still to come as we approach the climax of the season.
There is. And for all of you listening out there, I want you to think about this. Which of these storylines is grabbing your attention the most? Is it the back and forth battle between Barcelona and Real Madrid for the title? The intense competition for those Champions League and Europa League places? Or the desperate fight to avoid relegation? Think about the momentum swings we've seen, the key tactical decisions being made by the managers. It's all going to play a role in how this exciting La Liga season unfolds, and it's shaping up to be a finish we won't forget.